What's up, y'all, and welcome into the Jack Vita Show. I am your host, Jack Vita, back in action for a special exit interview with the second contestant eliminated from Deal or No Deal Island, Sydnee Peck. Her time came to an end this week on the Bankers Island. I'm going to speak with her in a second. Before I do that, I ask that you guys all subscribe to the Jack Vita Show. We're here on YouTube. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Make sure you guys are all subscribed so that you don't miss out on all of the content. We've got these exit interviews every single week. This week's recap, joining me and Stephanie Mitchell from Season 1 is Amy McCoy, also from Season 1, the runner-up. So we're going to have a really fun conversation breaking down everything from the show. But I don't want to waste any more time, so without much further ado, let's get to our conversation here with Sydnee. At this time, I'd like to welcome in the latest contestant eliminated from Deal or No Deal Island. It is Sydnee Peck. Sydnee, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jack. How's it going?
It's good. Thank you for making time for us. Really appreciate it. Would love to start with, why am I talking to you right now? What went wrong for you?
What went wrong? Well, how much time do we have?
25 minutes.
25 minutes. I think a few things. Definitely didn't keep my cards close to my chest, as everybody saw. We'll get into it later, but I was dealing with a lot of things on the island myself that were, kind of putting additional stress on me. And I think that it all kind of just got to me. I hadn't prepared in the way that, I prepared in a way that I thought, but you never really know going into a situation like this. I've never been on TV before, never been on an island before like that. Just the whole situation, you can't really prepare for something like that. So I think, I was just a bit in over my head, if you will, I guess.
Well, I'm looking forward to finding out more about your story and about you and what some of those things may have been. I think the best place to start with all of this is, how did this opportunity come about? What brought you to TV?
Okay, so I've actually been, scouted for reality TV quite a bit, many different shows. Big Brother, Survivor, all of the things. And I've never had an interest in it, never really thought I would be good for reality TV. Apparently not. Apparently I am TV gold. Everyone loves to make fun of me. But they reached out to me on Instagram, someone from casting. And I don't know what it was. I think it was because I grew up watching Deal or No Deal. So I had that little special place in my heart. I hadn't seen season 1, but I liked the idea and the concept of it. It didn't seem like your traditional reality show where it's everybody's just going on to get famous. It was like, oh no, this is strategy, which, believe it or not, I lost my mind a bit on the island, but I am pretty good at that. I liked the concept. I liked the idea. I thought it seemed cool. So that's kind of how I ended up here.
So you made mention of it, that there were some things that were kind of going on there for you. I'm not sure how much you want to talk about it, but yeah. So what was going on? What was weighing you down? What was creating stress or anxiety or just difficulty for you?
So, I'll touch on two things kind of here when I, this didn't air in the episode, but after that challenge where it shows me crying, that wasn't actually me crying because of being in the bottom 2. So the thing I've been dealing with is I have lupus, and I actually was dealing with a very, very severe flare-up while I was on the island. I'd gotten really, really sick, and my body was starting to completely give out on me, honestly. After that first challenge, I pretty much knew that I wasn't going to make it to the end of this show. I knew that my body was not going to let me do that. It causes extreme fatigue. The pain I was in I can't even describe it to you. I was in so much pain. So I was really struggling through these challenges. And after that second challenge, I couldn't even move. I was in tears. And Joe asked Sydnee, can you please, because Joe knew that I had lupus. He said, why don't you tell, your island mates what you've been dealing with? And so I opened up to them about it. But that's what that was. And that just wasn't shown. So it kind of just looked like I was crying because I was in the bottom too. But that's what was making me like, I was having a really, really hard time while I was there physically.
Well, that's something that I can somewhat relate to. I have Graves' disease, or I should say had
Oh,
Graves' disease. I had my
had.
thyroid taken out. Yeah.
Oh my God. Really?
So
I don't know a
totally
lot
healthy
about
now.
that. Well, good for you. That's amazing. I mean,
Yeah, praise God, amazing, feeling so much better. But like, I remember that the season of my life where it was just, oh my gosh, autoimmune is no joke. So to go out on a show like that with autoimmune, that's a challenge in its own right.
yeah, it definitely was. I mean, I have days where like, I can barely lift my head off of a pillow. Like I like physically can't stand up. I can't stand for like more than 30 seconds. I'll have to like bring a chair to like wash the dishes. So, going out there and dealing with that and not sharing it with the other contestants, not having them know what was going on up until that point, I think everyone was just like, why does she suck at these challenges? But I was like, given what I was dealing with, I was trying my hardest.
So let's talk a little bit about the social component of the game for you. Um, was there anyone that you felt like you really bonded with and gelled with that you built a friendship with that has lasted outside the show?
Philip, actually. Philip and I keep in touch, and he was so wonderful on the island. Like, I have nothing but great things to say about him. Like that person that you see on screen, he's exactly like that. Like he was the very first person to reach out to me as soon as we got our phones back. He checked in on me. He was like, "Hey, I just want to see how you're doing." Checks in on me all the time. Like messaged me last night. He was like, "Hey, how's it going? Like, are you okay?" So I would say Philip's definitely the number one person that I keep in touch with, and nothing but great things to say about him. He's amazing.
Was it overall, did you feel like people treated you kindly or were people pretty nasty to you on the show?
No, I don't feel like everyone was kind. No. Um, I get it. Like, I'm, I'm not for everybody, but what the viewer saw is very different than like the version of me that everybody actually knew on the island for the majority of the time. Like, we were filming 24/7, and I totally get, you can't put everything in. And I also get that the edit that I got, it made great TV. It's funny. Um, and I'm leaning into it and I'm not upset about it, but also, you know, I am smart and I, am not this boy crazy insane person. Like when I found out David was married, I completely backed off. I didn't want to talk about him in interviews anymore. I, told him, I was like, I have so much respect for your marriage. We talked about his family, his wife, everything, there's just so many things you don't see. And so I feel like while I'm not for everybody, I'm definitely not as intense as what everybody saw.
Do you feel like he could have done a better job of making that known to everybody at the start that he was married?
Um, I think that's up to him. I think that he was playing a game, and he knew what he was doing, you know. But David said in an interview, he said, I flirted with Sydnee first, and she picked up on it, and I went with it. And so I think, it worked for his game, I guess. But to be completely honest with you, I think a big reason I latched on to David, and I remember saying this when in that thing where I said he's so hot it's stupid. I said he's a great person to have, and I said this multiple times. He's a great person to have for the challenges because physically he's like three people, and for someone like me who I knew what I was dealing with physically, I figured having someone be on my team or as an ally that could physically help me through those challenges would be a great ally to have. So like I saw a benefit there. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I don't love, how the whole David thing happened because we, as far as was concerned, we had actual genuine friendship. He was like kind of the only person I opened up to on the island. As soon as like I wasn't interested in him like that. I found out he had a wife. We became like friends. And he was the only person that knew I had lupus. His wife has lupus. And so he was helping me through that a lot. Like I opened up to him about a lot, and he opened up to me, and like I really thought we were friends. So to see the way that he spoke about me on camera and was like making fun of me behind my back, I was kind of shocked. I was genuinely like, wow. And then it just looks even worse because it just looked like this one-sided thing where I was like chasing someone that, and it just wasn't, it was not like that.
Yeah, it's like where you feel. I think everybody has had a friendship or a time where they felt they put a lot of trust in a person and that person burned them, or they didn't know the full person of, like, they felt like they only knew a version of that person, and then it came back to bite them. So I can only imagine what some of that feeling might be if you feel a little bit of that. Only everybody seeing it on TV.
It's really embarrassing because it's like you're like the butt of the joke. It's like everybody's laughing, but nobody realizes, like, no, David was flirting back with me. Like he's the one that initiated that. And then when it was no longer flirting, we were friends, and I kind of just felt like the whole world is laughing at me, and I'm finding out with everybody else. So that's been kind of but
yeah. Well, let's try to find a positive here. What's a positive from this whole experience?
There's a lot of positives. I mean, obviously it was this beautiful location. I was really proud of myself for, I was really scared to go with my condition and everything. And I was proud of myself for like getting out of my comfort zone and challenging myself like that. So that was a big positive for me. That was like, all right, no, I can do stuff, and it taught me a lot. I think I've definitely been, taking things a lot slower and just kind of really trying to work on myself a lot more. So I think that was a positive. But the experience itself, it was beautiful, and, I met some cool people out of it.
Did you have any idea who David or Parvati was, or Dr. Will for that matter?
No idea. The challenge reality show world is completely foreign to me. Like I remember in my, like right when I left after my elimination, they asked me, they were like, does Parvati look like anybody famous to you? Like, and I remember saying, she kind of looks like maybe like a Ralph Lauren model or something. I remember like that's the closest thing I could pull. I was like, she looks like she could be a Ralph Lauren model. So like I was completely out of it. I have no idea.
That's pretty good. So who would you, let's say that you could have sent anybody home in that, let's say, I mean, obviously there's the restrictions with this new kind of format with there are certain people on the bottom that you could send home. But let's say you could have, was there anyone in specific you were targeting at the start of the second episode?
Oh, I would have loved to send C.K. home. Even though, like, and that's within, I would have been able to do it too. But yeah, I would have loved to send her home. However, here's the difference. C.K. and I made a deal. We made a handshake. And maybe I'm not cut out for this kind of show, which clearly I'm not because I didn't win. I would have honored that handshake. Even though I didn't like her, and even though I didn't want her there, I still would have honored that handshake. So, just a difference in gameplay or character, I don't know.
But you looked like you thought you were going home.
Oh, I knew I was going home.
Yeah.
I totally knew. It wasn't just from her. I could feel it from everybody. Once again, it was one of those things where like I could tell everybody knew that that's what was happening. And, I'm perceptive enough to pick up on an overall vibe. So I think that a lot of my anxiety was coming from that too.
Take us through, you gave a little speech there at the temple, and obviously we only saw a short portion of that. Why did you decide to give a speech, and what did you want to tell the group? What was your motivation behind all that?
Well, this is another thing that, I don't know if it's for timing purposes or for whatever reason. I completely understand it. When I gave that speech I gave when we very first got to Temple, before the game had even started. So I know that on camera, it looks like I interrupted in the middle of the game, but I didn't. This was when we very, very first got to Temple, And I said, hey, before we get started, can I address everybody? And so I think that that's really, really important to note, because otherwise it just defeats the purpose of me giving that speech. It's like I'm giving a speech about being inconsiderate while being inconsiderate. So I think the timing of that is important to note. But I wanted to do that because I knew I was going home. I knew that there was no way to save my ass. So I've asked if it was like a strategy to try to like a Hail Mary thing. It absolutely was not. It was like, I knew that I was going home. I also knew that physically I really couldn't be there much longer. Like my body wasn't going to handle it. And so I was like, if I can walk away with anything, I can at least walk away with like, my integrity and keep my reputation somewhat intact, which I thought, that speech was going to help with, due to the timing that it ended up being. It ended up making me look worse. But, that was my goal. I was like, I don't want people to think that I'm this person, who's super inconsiderate and doesn't just thinks the whole world revolves around her, which it ended up backfiring on me. But I had very good intentions and I meant all of it. I was gutted. Like when I found out that people were like so upset at me after Temple, like the night before, I really was so embarrassed. I felt so bad. I was like, that's not who I am. I think it was just nerves and excitement, and it was our first day film. Like, it was just like a completely foreign thing, and I got overly excited and I felt bad. I wanted to apologize.
How are you doing right now with this entire experience?
You know, After the first episode, I would say I was doing a lot better than I am right now. I'm still doing well. I'm still doing good.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm just kind of trying to look at it from a different lens of like where I'm at now in my life and laugh it off. Like, when celebrities read mean tweets, I sat down and I was like
Yeah.
sitting with my mom and I was like reading Reddit comments and Twitter comments to her, and we were laughing our asses off for like 2 hours. Because some of these are really funny. Some of these memes have been hilarious. And my mom's like, oh my gosh, she said that. That's so funny. Like, I'm trying to lean into it and like make light of it, because at the end of the day, people see what they see, but they don't actually know me. And that's totally fine. I've done the same thing watching TV, reality TV. So I'm just trying to take it in stride and I guess take it on the chin.
So we didn't get too deep into it on the show, but obviously you come from a really interesting background. You made mention of having to switch schools a lot growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
You said something about being homeless at one point in your life. I'm curious. I mean, we only have a few minutes here, but I just love to hear the Cliff Notes story of your life up to this point.
Yeah.
What are some things that people should know about you?
I mean, yeah. My parents split. We had a really nice life. And then my parents split when I was like 11. And after that, it got pretty chaotic. My mom had to work like 3 jobs. She worked a lot. And, I was taking care of my 2 younger siblings, and we had to move a lot because we didn't have a lot of money. And so I ended up going to like 14 schools by the time I was in 9th grade. And so that was really stressful. And then I wanted to, move away. So after I graduated, I packed up my car at 17, lived in my car in LA. And, I'm the type of person where like if I say I'm going to do something, I have to stick to it. So I was like too embarrassed to come home. Like I couldn't afford a place to live, but I was too embarrassed to come home and say I failed. So I was like, I would rather live in my car than have everybody think I failed. So I lived in my car for like 6 months. I had a storage unit and I had a gym membership, and I would go once a week to my storage unit and get all my outfits. And then I would go shower at the gym and I would go to my job and nobody knew. And until I could afford an apartment, I saved up all my money and, then decided to go back to school and I was started at Santa Monica in California, and then I transferred to Columbia, New York, and kind of started my life in New York, worked on Wall Street, and it was like a complete 180 of my life. So that's, I guess, a little Cliff Notes version.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're going to have to write a book someday about all of
Hey,
it.
thank
It's
you.
a pretty amazing story.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's really nice.
Is there anything else about the show that you wanted to discuss in the final few minutes here that we have?
Um, just people just, take everything with a grain of salt. That's all I want to say. It's like, you know, it's very easy to form opinions about people, and I'm guilty of it. I've done the same thing. It's very easy to form opinions about people. And now that I'm on the other side of it, I'm like, I will watch reality TV with a completely different lens now. I'm like, give so much more, you know, credence to people. Just people just need to be nicer. Kind of. That's all I want to say.
Well, I'm right about to tape the recap for this week's episode. That's what I'm going to do right when I get done talking with
Oh,
you. So,
nice.
people who are interested, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. This week, joining me and Stephanie Mitchell from last season is Amy, who experienced all kinds of hate from last season. So, I'm sure she'll have a thing or two to say about that.
I actually got a message from Amy today, or last night. So, yeah, tell her I say hi.
Oh, absolutely. Did you watch season 1? Was there anyone on there that you really liked?
I did watch season 1, and I thought Amy was hilarious. So,
She is.
I loved Amy, and I loved Aaron.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Aaron's a good guy too. Yeah, real good guy. Well, Sydney, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you carving out, and you're always welcome on this show. And
Thank you, Jack.
good luck to you with everything.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day.
All right, y'all. That concludes our conversation with Sydney today. It was great talking with her. I think she seems like a very kind person, and don't think she should be getting the hate that she's getting on social media. So if you guys like this episode, make sure you guys hit the like button, hit subscribe. You want to miss out on the exit interviews that we have coming up on the show in the coming weeks. We got one every single week with whichever contestant is eliminated. Should be a lot of fun. And then we also have our weekly recaps that we do every single week. Stephanie Mitchell and I from season 1. We are going to break down the show, share our thoughts, share some laughs, and just give a little insights into everything. And this week, joining us is Amy McCoy, the runner-up in season 1. She's really hilarious. She's great. It'll be a really fun conversation. So make sure you guys all subscribe so you don't miss it. And until then, I'm Jack Vita. Bring in the dancing lobsters.